about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned into Stoned on Sports, fantasy football. My name is Matt, and as you can see, we have the return of the prodigal son. Kyle is back after a little bit of an absence.
Yeah.
Welcome back, dude. Welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're going through waiver wire today. Obviously, it's Tuesday. It's what we do every Tuesday. A little bit different. We're going with 8 players instead of 10. And what's the reason for that? Well, number one, there ain't really a whole hell of a lot out there on the wire. Number two, at this point in the season, do you really need us to tell you that you should have Braylon Allen if you've got Breece Hall? No, you don't. And especially at running back, aside from some injuries that have happened here. Well, there was one last night, but we still haven't heard anything on J.K. Dobbins. There's some injuries in Washington's backfield, which we're going to touch on. But other than that, man, pickings are damn slim.
They are. And it sucks. And this is just kind of the way it goes most years, in my opinion. So let's start off. First guy we got is Matthew Stafford with the Rams. Sure, he's 64% owned, a little higher than we talk about, but still available in over a third of leagues. Last week, he was 24 of 36, 243 yards, couple touchdowns. Finished as QB 8 in week 12 with 19.2 points. He's QB 20 on the season, been on a tear of late, scored at least 18.9 points or more in 4 of the last 5, and ripped off 12 touchdowns in the process. And 6 touchdowns, no picks in the last couple games. You can definitely see having Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp on the field has made just a huge difference for Stafford. Among 24 quarterbacks with 300-plus dropbacks, Stafford ranks pretty decent for a guy playing in his 16th NFL season. He's 6th overall in passing yards at 2,800, 12th in passing touchdowns with 15. His PFF grade is 19th, and he's 12th in completion percentage. He's at 66.5%, 3% higher than his career average. And he's tied for 11th most sacks taken, and with 26 of them. And speaking of sacks, he was just under constant pressure from Philly last week, took 5 sacks, but he should have much more protection, I think, this week against the Saints, who have a bottom 5 QB pressure rate on the season. Hopefully that gives Stafford some more time to spot open receivers down the field. Speaking of the matchup with the Saints, they've allowed the 10th fewest points per game to quarterbacks, just 15 on the year. But since week 8, they're a little worse. They've allowed the 15th most points to QBs, up to 17.7 per game, and they've allowed the 14th most passing yards in that span. And if you remember, they just had their bye, but if you remember before that, they allowed 395 to Jameis in week 11 and 306 to Kirk Cousins in week 10. So I had Stafford. He's a low-end QB1, high-end QB2 range for me heading this next week here into the Saints. I'd start him confidently in week 13.
Yeah, now that he's got his full complement of weapons, which he didn't have for most of the year, he's really a different quarterback. And you know, we're seeing that in his results. Puka kind of had a bad game the other day, but still, I think they're on that like second, third tier of teams. But Stafford is really the embodiment of like any given Sunday, this dude can go out there and give you 303.
Yep, exactly. Next guy we got for you is a running back, and Tank Bigsby is the only backup running back in the league who could lead their team in carries without an injury occurring to the main back, Travis Etienne. His ownership has dropped due to injury and from facing a couple top 5 defenses over the last few weeks. So he's available in more leagues again. Pick him up, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And looking at his next 6 opponents, they're all mid-pack versus running backs since week 8. He gets the Texans, the Titans twice, the Jets, the Raiders. I'll take those matchups. He's definitely the best running back in Jacksonville this season, even though he's splitting time with Travis Etienne. His 5.5 yards a carry is 6th among qualified rushers, and that includes a couple quarterbacks. but his expected yards per carry is just 3.9 yards. This dude's outperforming what's going on around him by almost 2 full yards every time he touches the ball. And while he has only 95 attempts, he's still crested 500 yards and is 148 rush yards over expected, ranked 6th. That's better than Jahmyr Gibbs, Lamar Jackson, and Bijan Robinson. 1.6 yards, rush yards over expected per attempt puts him 3rd in the league. He's got 467 yards after contact. That's 22nd best, but his 3.5 yards after contact per attempt ranks 7th among everyone that has ran the ball at least once this season. This dude is doing it every damn play.
Yep.
He's top 15 in broken tackles, and per PFF, he's forced 27 missed tackles in his 95 attempts. He missed week 11 due to an ankle injury, but there's been multiple games this season where he still outsnapped Travis Etienne. So there's some hope there. Despite that missed game, he still leads all Jags running backs in red zone attempts. Player Profiler really likes him. He's top 21 in true yards per carry, yards per touch, juke rate, evaded tackles, explosive rating, breakaway runs, and yards created per touch. And we saw what he can do when he gets the opportunity, right? Absolutely. Between weeks 5 and 8, he was a top 10 running back. Jacksonville is a team that's really headed nowhere fast. The big question with him is number 1, how's the ankle? And number 2, is he going to get the touches? ETN, for whatever reason, I'm sure we could spend a whole show talking about disappointing players this year. And ETN has got to be close to the top, among dudes, barring injury. For Tank, it's really just a matter of them giving him the damn ball so he can go out there and do something with it.
Yeah. My favorite stat about Bigsby that I came across the last day or so was his yards per carry after contact matches Etienne's overall yards per carry.
Yeah, dude, Tank is a beast.
Yep, if he's available in your league, you get him. The matchups here, the rest of the way for Tank or for Jacksonville, the run should generally remain in play. Houston, Tennessee, the Jets, Las Vegas, Tennessee again, and the Colts. It's a good pickup. His ownership's dropped. He's available in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, something like 2/3 of leagues or whatever, if I remember right, ballpark.
Yeah.
We got another running back, and out there in Washington, things are looking kind of bleak. Brian Robinson's hurt. Austin Eckler got his ass knocked out. Somebody's still got to run the ball, right?
Yeah.
How about Jeremy McNichols?
Yeah, it's, Robinson didn't finish the game. Eckler didn't finish the game. Eckler's dealing with concussion. Pretty bad. I don't think he's going to play. And Brian Robinson, we'll see, it was an ankle injury, but he's been dealing with hammies and knee injuries already this year. So they're both questionable. The status of both backs, you're going to want to monitor that as the week progresses there, which make McNichols a clear waiver target in every league, especially standard leagues. I like him more in that. He rotated in for a handful of touches when Brian Robinson went out, just rushed 3 times for 22 yards, but it's nice efficiency over 7 a carry, right? And he's been sporadically involved in the offense there throughout the year. He does have 4 touchdowns this season. He's posted double-digit fantasy points twice, including 19.4 back in week 4. So most fantasy managers should be well aware of him. Right now, 64 running backs have 40-plus carries. McNichols ranks pretty damn good. 11th in PFF rush grade, tied for 9th in yards per carry at 4.9. He's 12th in yards after contact per attempt with 3.4, and he's 14th in PFF's breakaway rate. Missed tackles forced are pretty good. He's only has 8 on the season, but he's only got 44 carries. So that missed tackle force rate of 18.1 is pretty good. You like that stat I just made up? Missed tackle force rate. If you want to compare that with somebody like Derrick Henry, a missed tackle force, machine, his rate's 19.9. So not too far off for McNichols. He's definitely electric in a lot of ways. Washington faces Tennessee here in week 13. That's hardly, a friendly spot for them. The Titans have only allowed one back to rush for 70 plus yards on them this year. In standard leagues on the season, Tennessee allows the 14th fewest points per game to running backs, but since week 7, they've slipped to 13th most points allowed. They've allowed 6 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, and 100-yard rusher allowed. And, grab them at the very least, stash them for a couple days while you wait for news on Robinson or Eckler. If something happens, it could be worse, but somebody to grab for at least this week if they're both out, if you're desperate.
Yeah, and he can do some work out of the backfield. A couple of years ago, he had 28 grabs his last season in Tennessee. That's nothing to sneeze at, especially if you're in a PPR and you can get some cheap points that way. Absolutely take that shit. Washington, they've struggled a little bit here as of late, but they're still putting up points.
Yeah.
Right. We know that offense can score. If I can get a piece of that for cheap, with the understanding that, hey, he's going to get any kind of decent workload, really. If he can get 12 to 15 opportunities, he's going to be a viable flex option.
Absolutely. I agree. Next up, we got a wide receiver. You got Keon Coleman, right? He's got to share targets with Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Amari Cooper. But Josh Allen is the high tide that rises all ships, right, in that offense. Coleman's ownership's dipped there due to that lingering wrist injury and that mega bye week. He was dropped a bit, but he's a dangerous big play threat who should be targeted on the wire this week.
Absolutely. And from weeks 5 to 8, he was the wide receiver 27 in points per game, posted games of 11.9, 16.5, and 18 points. Awesome. I'll take it. Weeks 7 and 8, he was a top 20 option at the position each week. Sweet. He suffered a wrist injury in week 9, and we haven't seen him since. And Buffalo, they had their bye as well in there. Prior to his injury, he was seeing his snap share rise. Weeks 7 to 9, it was 75+%. We were starting to see the chemistry with Josh Allen too. We saw his opportunities increase. You're on the field more, you get more opportunities. In those weeks there, 23 targets, 13 grabs for 270 and 2. Second on the team in targets, just behind Dalton Kincaid. And he's got 5 red zone opportunities as well. The next 3 matchups are solid, right? The 49ers are pretty good against wide receivers. The Lions are halfway decent. The Rams are bad, right? So that's, a matchup we want to target, but that's in the future. We're worried about this week now, right? Week 13. He logged a 62% snap share or better in 8 of 9 games, has 4 games over 75%. He's a big play receiver too. He averages 19 yards a reception and 11.5 yards per target. He's tied for 5th at the position in receptions of 20 or more yards with 9 from weeks 1 to 8. No guarantee he's going to be back this week, right? But we should have some more clarity as the week progresses. Keep in mind, Buffalo doesn't play until late Sunday night. They are the Sunday night game against the Niners. And we don't know how targets are going to be split with a healthy Keon Coleman and a healthy and integrated Amari Cooper. So that's something else you're going to want to keep an eye on. But he is a high upside target on a team that's averaging 30 points per game during their current 6-game winning streak. If you're looking for upside, especially on the wire, given what he did before he got hurt and the trends that we saw, he's one of the best options out there.
He is. I mean, you got to be probably pretty aggressive to get him. This is a good offense to invest in. I think so. They're 3rd in scoring on the year at 29-1 or something a game. So, and those games, the Niners, Rams, Lions, those could be potential shootouts for sure. I like it.
I can dig it, brother. We got a question here in the chat.
Nice.
From Michael. What do we think about Pitts? Feels like he can't really drop him. I understand the feeling. Or shouldn't. He's got Henry and Kincaid available on wires. He's lost. I fucking hate tight end.
Everybody
guess
does,
what, Michael?
brother.
You ain't alone there. Unless you have one of the top 4 or 5 options, it's musical chairs every damn week, it seems like. So out of those 3 players, which one do you think is going to be the best option for him?
Jonnu Smith. Oh, it's not on there. Oh, sorry. Try and get yourself Johnny Smith. That's tough. Who the Patriots play this week?
Oh shit, I don't remember.
I don't either. Why am I? It's a holiday week and I'm totally unprepared. Where the hell are they? Oh, the Colts. Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I'd say Henry.
So you take Henry over Pitt. Would you drop Pitts for Henry?
Nah, necessarily if I didn't have to. But what do you, I mean, the guy's done really nothing this year. Nothing.
Man. And that sucks too. He's got all the damn talent in the world. He had all the hype, 1,000 yards as a rookie. You get Kirk Cousins in town,
Sure.
and everyone's thinking to the fucking moon, right? Well, not so much. Michael says Jonnu got scooped up after that 30 burger. Looks like you're not playing in a multiple choice league then, Michael.
Yeah.
And just for those of you that are new, when we refer to a multiple choice league, think back to when you were in school and you'd have a test and it was a multiple choice. You could immediately eliminate 2 of the answers. It seems like a lot of the leagues we play in, you can immediately eliminate half the teams. They're just there to have fun. I don't give 2 shits about having fun. I want to win, even if I'm miserable doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry's got a good
it.
matchup. I don't know that I could advocate dropping Pitts. If you did, I would understand, but I'm not going to get on a soapbox and say why you should keep him.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It is. Who we got next?
So speaking of dudes who got their ass knocked out, that's Romeo Doubs. And guess what? Every time Dontayvion Wicks is on the field, it seems like some good shit happens when he can hold on to the ball.
Yes, good point there. But yeah, Romeo Doubs suffered a concussion, got the short week, playing on Thanksgiving. I don't expect him back. Wicks only saw 2 targets, caught one of them for 25. In fact, he's just had 3 receptions for 36 yards across his last 4 games, so not good. Week 12, Wicks was on the field for 16 of 46 snaps, working as the wide receiver 4 on that team. After Dobbs got hurt, the Packers still had 3 drives after that. Jalen Reed and Christian Watson played all 10 snaps on those drives. Wicks played 8 of 10, and Bo Melton played the other 2. On the year, Wicks is 3rd on the team in wide receiver targets with 45, and he's tied with Jalen Reed with 4 receiving touchdowns. He's a damn good route runner. He really knows how to create separation, allowing him to win at all levels on the field. PFF has the metric about separation rate, tracks how often a receiver gets open by beating coverage rather than benefiting from how the defense played him. Okay, so far this season, Wicks ranks number 2 among all receivers in that category, creating separation on 74.5% of his routes. Now the bad that Matt alluded to. Wicks has a drop problem, all right? Among 77 wide receivers with 40-plus targets, Wicks' drop rate is the worst by far, by over about 6% or so, which has contributed to his low completion rate when targeted at just 37%. Wicks has only caught 17 of his 45 targets. Not good. A lot of those drops were the product of Wicks trying to turn and make a play before he caught it. And if you've watched this cat in college, that's something that plagued him then too. Matchup this week is not great. It's a Miami defense that has pretty much shut down wide receivers as well as anyone on the year. They've allowed the 2nd fewest PPR points to wide receivers. But since week 8, they've been not as good, allowing the 13th fewest. Well, it's not a perfect matchup. Wicks does have a lot of upside. You got a receiver that can separate like him. The down, the distance, nothing really matters. He can win regardless. If Dobbs is out, he's a good solid flex option for week 13 with some upside.
I think so too. Just hold on to the damn ball.
Yep.
Keep him and Quentin Johnston away from one another.
Sure.
Because obviously there's problems there.
Like they got feet on their hands. It's horrible.
Bricks for hands.
Something like that. Next guy, I'm really high on him. It's been pretty quiet. If you need a flex streamer or a backup with upside, voila. Or should I say Vele? DeVaughn Vele of the Broncos last week had his 3rd straight game with double-digit PPR points and has been quietly a nice number 2 there while Josh Reynolds has been injured. Man, it seems like he's really gelling with his fellow rookie Bo Nix.
Oh, yeah, he has. And he's a 7th-round rookie, right? You keep your expectations pretty low, but there's something to like here. He's out of Utah, got off to a hot start beginning of the season. Very first game, pulled in all 8 of his targets. He got just 39 yards, though. He missed weeks 2 through 5 with injury. Over the last 3 weeks, though, he's been the wide receiver 29 in points per game, averaging 12.8 points per week. And he's played 65% or more of snaps as well. And he's eclipsed that 65% number 4 times this season. And when he does, he averages 12.5 points a game. He's got a solid matchup next couple weeks against teams that are in the bottom half against a position in the Browns and the Colts. And the Broncos, they're throwing quite a bit, right? 30-plus attempts in 6 of the last 7, multiple TD passes in 6 of the last 8. So there's opportunity there. And you would think, given his 6'5", 210-pound frame, that he would be an ideal end zone and red zone target, but we haven't seen the usage yet. He's got just 3 targets in the red zone this season. I think that's going to increase. I get it. There's not a whole lot of time this season, but just this season and going forward, I think he's going to be a good piece there in Denver. If he can regularly get to around a 70% route share, he'd be the clear-cut number 2 option on the team, and he is trending that way now. He's not going to be the number 1 simply because Cortland Sutton exists, right? And Cortland Sutton's having a hell of a season, but he's making his case to be on the field. He's got a 112.6 passer rating when he's been targeted this year. He does work primarily out of the slot, which has helped to limit his time on the field, but they will move him to the outside. And when they do, they use him closer to the line of scrimmage. He's got good hands. He's only got 1 drop on the season, and he's hauled in 32 of his 34 catchable targets. I like him better in deeper formats in 14-team leagues. I think he needs to be on the radar in 12-team leagues. 10-team leagues, not so much, just because, you're going to have some decent options available on waivers unless you just have massive rosters. But given the growth that we've seen, not only from Bo Nix, but from the Broncos as a whole, Vele is going to be a big part of that continued growth. And this is an opportunity to get in on him before he has that big breakout game.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Michael Bricky says Westbrook Akine is available, but no matter how much he scores, I just don't believe. I know he's scored 1 touchdown in 6 of the last 7. It's been insane down there. He's finding the end zone, completely touchdown dependent there. Got some nice matchups coming up though. Washington and Jacksonville.
He does, and Will Levis is looking a little better.
A little bit.
I don't want to say that too loud. Right. But we are seeing a little bit of improvement there, but I get it. The touchdowns are awesome. They are unpredictable. When you have 3 receptions and 2 of them are scores, you can't count on that shit every week. And I know, at least thinking personally, I know the minute I pick him up and start him, he's going to have like 1 grab for 8 yards.
Yeah. Is Vele better than Westbrook Akine?
I think so. I like the offense better. I think he can be a more consistent producer, and he's not touchdown dependent to be relevant.
This is true. Yeah. I like the offense there. Bo Nix and Sean Payton are gelling nicely.
They're cooking.
Yeah. They're cooking with some gas.
Speaking of rookie wide receivers, Xavier Legette, they moved on from who's that dickhead they traded to Baltimore that ain't done shit?
Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson moved on, and old Adam Thielen is back. But the one constant, it seems like, among their wide receiving core this season in Carolina has been Xavier Legette. Why should we look to pick him up?
He's been pretty solid. Last week against Kansas City, caught 4 of 6 targets for 56 yards. And I think that's pretty good for a Kansas City defense. It's been pretty damn tough on outside receivers. He finished as wide receiver 38 in PPR, 9.6 points. on the year. He's wide receiver 58. He does have at least 4 catches in 3 of his past 4 games, and he's scored 9 or more fantasy points in all of them. You know, he's performed as a legitimate wide receiver 4 on the year. We got 77 wide receivers with 40 plus targets. He ranks 30th in catch rate, 18th in touchdowns. His PFF receiving grade is 68th, not very good at all. And he's 30th in route participation and 63rd in yards per route run. It's not great. You know, I think not all of it's on him, right? I'd love to see this guy in an offense with a competent QB, see what he could really do. But he is one of 5 wide receivers available in 50% of leagues to average at least 11 points in PPR per game since week 8. 3 of the 5 are kind of touchdown dependent. Quentin Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, even Keon Coleman. The other one is Elijah Moore with the Browns. I don't like him just because the Browns have just one of the shittiest schedules for wide receivers over the rest of the season. I think Legette's firmly on the flex radar for 13, especially probably definitely in deeper leagues, facing that Bucs defense that has allowed the 7th most points in PPR to wide receivers. The Bucs have allowed a wide receiver to gain at least 85 yards in 4 of their last 5. Worth noting, the Panthers also faced the Bucs during fantasy championship weekend. So get yourself some depth. Add Legette if you got him. Might be able to help you come champ time.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers just lost somebody from their secondary too for the season with a torn pec.
Oh, didn't see that. That.
It's getting rough down there.
Speaking of the Bucs, I saw Shaq Barrett's looking to unretire and come back.
Yeah, Miami holds his rights, and
correct.
I guess he was saying that he'd be perfectly fine playing for them.
Sure. Hey, I could do something.
Go for it.
Got anything? Any questions here? Nothing. Dang it. Bummer.
Yeah, Michael says, fun fact, the Bucs defense doesn't have a secondary.
No, they
outside of Antoine Winfield, brother, they ain't got shit.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we can't go without doing a tight end for you. No one's ever going to be excited about starting Zach Ertz. He's not flashy, but he's a healthy eater in most games over the last 7 weeks. He's got 4 or more receptions in every week but 1. Why should managers target Ertz this week, Matt?
Well, look, I mean, dude is tight end 12 in points per game.
Tight end.
Yes, at 9.8. He does have 6 games of 10 or more points, though, including 5 of his last 7. And since week 6, he's a tight end 10, averaging 11.8 points per game. The last 2 weeks, he's a tight end 7 with games of 18.7 and 15.8 points. You get that out of a tight end, your ass needs to be happy with that. His 69 targets are second on the team, just 5 fewer than scary Terry McLaurin. He's also played 75% or more of snaps for the last 5 weeks. He's got 5 or more targets in 8 games this season and 7 of his last 8. And he's found the end zone each of the last 2 weeks. But again, you can't predict touchdowns. He's top 10 at the position in targets, receptions, yards before contact, and air yards. But at this point in his career, he's a catch it and fall down kind of guy. 34th in yards after the catch and 35th in yards after contact among tight ends. He's only got 3 touchdowns this season, but he's 3rd at the position in red zone looks with 13. So we'll take that. Does have 3 drops, but those constitute all of the misses of his catchable targets. He's brought in 49 of 52. He's got 2+ matchups coming up against the Titans and Saints on the horizon. Both teams are well in the bottom half of the league against tight ends since week 8, but understand he's part of Bimageddon volume 2 in week 14. Maybe he's just a 1-week option if you end up with a roster crunch. I know last week kind of sucked for some people, and in 2 weeks it's going to suck for a lot more people. But at the same time, everyone's locked and loaded this week. If you need a tight end, which again, like we were just talking earlier, unless you've got one of the top 4 or 5 guys, your ass probably needs a tight end. You should take a look at Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I mean, I like him because I like the high floor, and he's been really a high floor tight end 1 most of the season. I think you just really need that in the fantasy playoffs with how scarce it is at the position.
That's it too. And something interesting I come across while I was researching him. So I'm sure it'd be no stretch to say if I asked you who is leading tight ends among routes run, you'd say Brock Bowers, right?
Yes.
He's tearing it up. You know who's second in routes run at the position?
No.
Dalton fucking Schultz.
No kidding. Dang.
And he ain't doing dick with those routes.
No, he's not. And, Stroud is just not what he was last year. Something going on there. A lot of O-line issues, too. A lot of combinations on the offensive line this year. Michael Brick, he's got a question. KC or Texans defense? He thinks KC's more real life. A good defense, but Texans better for fantasy. KC does have a good week position there against Desmond Ridder, but they looked pretty not good against Bryce Young. So I'm flipping a coin on those two, really, I guess.
I'm going with Kansas City. Desmond Ridder is not an NFL quarterback. Las Vegas is number one. Their run game is shit right now. If you picked up Amir Abdullah last week and started him out of pure desperation, congratulations, you got a touchdown. They are not going to be able to run the ball against them. Look, I get it. The Texans have been a better fantasy defense, and you see what Carolina did last week. Over the last several weeks here, really since Bryce Young has come back, we've seen some improvement out of that Carolina Panthers team. They've got a solid run game, and Chuba Hubbard is having the season of his life. So while the game was closer than what a lot of people thought, and certainly what Las Vegas thought was going to happen, that's a team with a couple pieces on offense that can keep things kind of close. Las Vegas is not that kind of team. They're going to get blown out, honestly. I'm going to run Kansas City out there with all the confidence in the world.
They are going to get blown out. Yeah, next week, the last bye week, then another mega bye. You got Denver, the Colts, Patriots, Commanders, Ravens, and my dreaded Texans.
There's a lot of talent going to be out next week.
There definitely is. It's rough. It's going to be tough for a lot of people, myself included, trying to clinch and get in when there's just so many players off. Why does the NFL do this with so much gambling and betting and fantasy betting and all this stuff mixed in with the league now, incorporated into the league now? I hate it.
I mean, they got to schedule around Taylor Swift concerts and shit.
Yeah. F all that.
Now, the only thing that's going to be clenched is your ass cheeks, brother, as you sit there and scoreboard watch for the entirety of the day Sunday.
Right. I do play you in a league, and DFS, though. I've been king against you the last.
No one cares about that.
Well, yeah, they certainly do. All right. Podcast League, week results, week 12. I got my ass beat by Supersonic, who had a league high 215 points. I think he had Saquon.
That's just insane.
Saquon and Tua, and I really thought that without Josh Allen, and I think, does he have Chase?
Yeah.
Without Chase, I had a very good shot to win, and all his guys he used and went off. So congrats there, Loud Boy. Ugh, ugly. And Dubo won again after a quick loss last week, the previous week. So. Yeah. Green Giant and Loud Boy are still the only ones to clinch so far. I'm in 5th. You're running out of time in 8th.
I'm clinging to life support. Look at Loud Boy, though. 1,851 points scored. There isn't even anyone else that's at 1,600.
Nope.
He's a damn juggernaut. But see, that's what happens when you listen to our advice.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. And Loud Boy won our baseball league as well this year. So he's trying to win both, which would be quite a feat.
He's got a 6-game winning streak. Took down Dubo's ass. Of course, Dubo, he was all hyped up over, Sam Darnold. But I'm just going to tell you right now, Sam Darnold is just Case Keenum reincarnated. Like, maybe he'll make the play. I mean, I'm sure they'll make the playoffs, but there's heartbreak in store.
For sure. Definitely. Looks like the chat's pretty slow. No questions in there. Don't forget, give us a like and subscribe. We will not have a sit show on Thursday due to Thanksgiving, but we're still here to help. Ask your questions in the comments on today's video. DM us on X, email us at stonedonsports1@gmail.com, and we'll give you our thoughts for sure. Otherwise, we'll see you next Sunday, or this Sunday coming up at 12 noon Eastern, to take all your last minute questions before lineups lock. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay stoned and have a great night.
Happy Thanksgiving, folks.